So now it's time, finally, to do the scary part, bending of the sides. Clearly we're going to have to heat them, and clearly we're going to have to steam them actually to get them to go around the corners. Now, the way that it's done professionally is you have a bending iron. So you have essentially a hot piece of metal and various metal straps, and you get this wet sometimes, and you sort of bend it round and slowly bring it into the shape that you want it. Now, bending irons is fairly expensive, and I haven't got one. So there's also a lot of skill involved in doing the bending. So I use a different technique. With other people as well, you see people with sort of an oven, you put it in like a steam oven, you build a little box oven, and then you have to get it out of the oven, and you've got about 20 seconds to get it into your mould and to flatten it out and to clamp it down. It's a bit of a faff doing like that, and also you make mistakes here. You just don't have enough time, and you risk breaking the last bit as you try and get it into the mould because it's cooled down too much. So what I do is I use a piece of plastic bag. So this is a bit of plastic bag. You can pick it up off eBay and things. It's just, as you can see, it's like a plastic tube, and it's open both ends. This actually came off an old mast, but you can use stuff off eBay, as you said. And the main thing is you don't want too many holes in it. But apart from that, and what you do is you take your guitar side, you pop it in the plastic bag. Obviously you need to make sure the plastic bag is long enough, like that. Fold over the end and clamp it with bulldog clip or some pegs, and then you attach something to the other end to create the steam. What we're going to use is this. This is an old wallpaper stripper. You put water in the bottom, and then you switch it on. It's like a giant kettle, and it just pours steam out the front. If you haven't got one, they're about £15 or so off eBay. They're really not very expensive. So one of those. Now the beauty of doing it like this, you steam it for about 10 minutes or so, and then you start to put it in the mould. Now I've got my mould over here. I'll pan you down a little bit, and then as it gets hot, because it's hot, you'll be able to stick it in the mould, and you press it down into the mould, and then you need to hold it in the mould. Now remember, because we're not actually disconnecting it from the steam here, I'm just using it in the bag with the steam still going, so this still remains just pliable. If you do that end first, you clamp it into the mould, and then with as much time as you've got, as much time in the world, you just bend it round, and then you clamp it in place bit by bit. Now what I use is cable ties. Now generally one cable tie is not long enough, so I'll just join two together. Small piece of wood, and what you do is you stick a cable tie around the back, put the wood on top, and it's your wood here that presses down onto your guitar side, and then you tighten it up and it clamps it into this mould. Now I won't go too far here because I'll break it because it's not steam. And then you slowly go around clamping it off, and because the steam's coming from the other end, all the rest of it remains steaming whilst you're doing this. So slowly as you like, you just bend it round into shape, clamping it along as you go until you get to the end, and then you turn off the steam. Leave it for 10 minutes or so to dry, to cool down, sorry, and you're good to go. So that's what I'm going to use. You also need a decent pair of gloves, gardening gloves. These are really good riggers gloves because they're made of leather, so the water doesn't soak in as quickly. But you can't do this with your bare hands because you will get scalded. It is very, very hot. I've been there and done it. You'll find pinholes, and like lots of steam comes out, and you'll burn your hands on that if you're not careful. So you just got to be a little bit careful. Wear gloves. Take your time. Right. So that's about it. Let's get on with it. So now we're all set up. We've got a plastic bag here. Put the piece of wood in. I've got bulldog clips on the end, so it's rolled over to seal it. And at the other end, I've got pipe coming from the wallpaper stripper, more bulldog clips to hold it in place. This bit's critical because as this gets hotter, this will swell up like a balloon. And as it gets hotter, this stuff gets really quite soft, which means if this isn't clipped in properly, it'll just fall out, and you'll start getting steam going all over the place. So bulldog clips, I've actually got a cable tie around it as well to try and make it more secure. We will need to make a small hole in the bag towards the other end to let the steam out as well. So that's all ready. Now the other thing is to make sure that you've got the piece of wood the right way around. So you make sure that the bit that's going on the outside is ready, so that I'm going to put this in front of here to steam it, and then what I'm going to do is lift it straight up and put it onto the mould. So therefore I need to make sure that the outside bottom. Okay, the mould I've set up, this one, so this side is the side with the cutout. So I've actually made another little a little press, if you like, in the shape of the cutout. It's hard to get the wood into the shape of the cutout because it's quite a fierce curve. So this goes in here like that to press it in. And I've got all my cable ties ready to lock it in as I go around. Okay, so they're all lined up ready. So I want everything to be ready. I don't want to be messing about. The other thing I've done, because this is the cutout and the wood ends right here, so rather than just stopping the wood there, what I've done is cut a groove in this way, so that when I'm ready for this, what I'll do is I'll slide it and I'll push it into the slot like that, and that'll stop it from pinging back out. I can then start clipping it in along here. I've also got a piece of wood, an old piece of wood that I've got this on, but I don't want steam going all over everything. Keep the steam away from the mould until you're ready to actually use it, because you've used wood glue, and therefore a bit of steam, a lot of steam, could cause the mould to come apart, and you don't want that happening halfway through everything. So that's ready. I've got my gloves. I'm ready to switch on the steamer. That's easy enough. Okay, so it'll take a few minutes for the steamer to boil, and then I'll leave it for about 10 minutes. So this will swell up, and then I'll leave it for like 10 minutes. Now this is the wood steaming, so this is what the thing looks like, a giant sausage. I've pierced a couple of holes in the bag with a pencil here to let the steam out. I don't want the whole thing to explode. And otherwise you can see where it's sealed. I've got steam coming out that end, and we'll just leave it like that, 10 minutes. Okay, so this one's been 10 minutes now, so what I'm going to do is start putting this one into the mould. Okay, the first thing we're going to do, because this is just sort of dangling here, is to do up this first cable tie, put the right one, just to hold it in place, stop it from sort of bending over the back. Now this is the difficult part. What I've got to do is get this into the groove at the front without screwing the hands. So there, that needs to fold back there. And this is into the groove here. Like that. Make sure it's in the middle, nicely in, and then put a block of wood on the top to hold it in place and coming out. So the big problem here is it can very easily pop out, and then you've got to start all over again. So check that's all done. Okay, nice and tight. That should hold that in place. Okay, next bit. Now we're pushing this in. What I'm going to try and do, get this now into its place. Pushing it from this side so it doesn't pull this out. So I've got it pretty much in. Now I'll take my little thing that I made. Tangled round. Let's try again. Okay, push it down again. Make sure it's not pulling out. And we'll do this one up now. Again, if you've got a second pair of hands that's willing to come and help you, then it makes things a lot easier. So Tighten that one up. And tighten from this side as well. Check that's all in place. Just remember, as you seal it off coming along, not only does it sort of fix it in place, but it also stops the steam. So at this point you're making sure this is completely in as you need it to be, and that it's all centralised as well. Okay. Okay, now we can carry on round. So, same way as we did before. Try not to burn your fingers. And we can start adding a few extra bits. You can obviously stick them in here. And we've already got this. Okay, this is the point where we're checking that it's all centralised, so we don't end up with a twist. Okay, I think we'll leave one there as well. Dig that up. Okay, that's it. And then we're coming along to the final bits now. So I want one here. Fall on the floor. Try not to cable tie the tube in. Connect it in there. Tighten it up. And then put in place. Approximately holding it. Check it's all in place and then pull it tight. And we're going to need another one there. So again, the steam's still flowing into this top section, so I've got all the time in the world. In place. Good. Now, final check round, make sure everything is touching the mould as it's supposed to be. It's all looking good. That's looking good. That's okay there. Okay. And then a dry hand. Switch the steam off. And then leave it to cook. Job done. It's been 10 minutes again, so time to get this out of this plastic bag. So again, snip through these. If you're careful, you can use some of them again. Bits of wood out. All the clips off. That should be all free now. So we should be able to lift this out. And we can undo this. And remove it from its bag. And you can see it's mostly holding its shape. It's obviously it's springy. And then we can just fit it back together. It's still wet, so it's still forming its own shape. shape. And we can then re-clip it. Some of these we can save, some of them we can't. So I'll start off with a new one. Goes in here. I should get that the right way around. That fits in there. Checking that's all in place as we go around. Get rid of these old ones. This one we can use again. I'll snip that off. This one. And I'm checking that it's nice and central as well as I go around. Because if you've got it drifting across the ways, that means it's going to be twisted in the final thing, which you don't want. Okay, that's looking good. Carry on round. That one's rescuable. Just. That one's also rescuable. I'm just looking to see which ones where there are gaps. So there's clearly a gap at this bit, so put one there. Check it's in the right place. Pull it tight. There we go. Make sure it's. I think I'm going to need one more. Okay, that's good. I'm just going to go around the final time. Actually, I think I'm going to need one here as well, and just check there aren't any that where there's little gaps. Because what we're going to do now is leave this in the mould for a little while, as long as it takes us to build the other bits of the guitar anyway. And it'll slowly, the wood will slowly relax into that shape. There we go. Okay, that's good. Not seeing any gaps there. Right, good to go. Stick this again somewhere nice and warm and dry, consistent. That'll dry out and then it can just live there until we're ready for it. Job done. Well, that's bending the sides done. That's the difficult part. Next thing to do is start to think about putting it together, preparing the blanks, put it together, and then we'll go from there. So, hope you liked this video. Please subscribe if you did. There's more to come. Otherwise, maybe I'll see you next time.